Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Having anxiety can be crippling in life. It can really be a challenge. Stand between things that you want to do, you should be doing, and they're all different types of anxiety. Let's look at that a little bit deeper. This gentleman has made it his life's work in helping people in many different areas, but specializing in anxiety, so much to the point where he created a program, a book, a workbook called Anxiety Quest. And he's back with us. He's the owner, and he's also a mental health counselor and coach at Healthy Counseling Center. He is Dr. Ray Smith, and he's back. Hey, Ray, how are you?
Hi, Steve. I'm well. How are you doing?
Doing great. Doing great. This whole thing about anxiety, different types. When we say that, how do we mean that?
Well, let's start with low-level anxiety that we will probably have the rest of our lives. And that's okay, because our brain is trying to say, you need to prepare for something. I anticipate that something could go wrong. Let's be on alert. And then the crippling kind of anxiety that you were talking about is not okay. It's too much. If we compared it to anger, it's okay to be a little angry. Sometimes we need that energy to solve a problem or do something good to help somebody. Too much anger and rage gets us in trouble. The prisons are full of people who had too much anger, and unfortunately the hospitals are too full of people who have toxic levels of anxiety. Anxiety itself isn't bad. When you're driving your car and a red light comes on the dashboard, that could trigger some anxiety. But the problem is not the red light. The red light is, there may be something coming on here that you should be warned about. And we want to always be grateful for that kind of anxiety. If a red light comes on in my car, I have some anxiety because I can't fix it. And if it's not under warranty, I have some concerns about paying for a repair. Well, correct, if you will, healthy levels of anxiety are like that red light. It's not the red light that's a problem. It's what the sensor is telling us that could be something to look at. And so if you get that red light on the dash, you may feel curious, wonder what this is, or you may feel anxious. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know how much it's going to cost. Does my warranty cover this? Can I get a rental car? There might be all kinds of thoughts that came through your mind, but we would be grateful to have the sensor come on before a worse problem happens. And that's what low level of anxiety can do for us. It can be our helper and announce things to us. I'll give you an example. A patient of mine has a lot of toxic anxiety. It happens too frequently at too high of an intensity. It lasts too long. It has too high of an impact on life and relationships. And this patient the other day met a homeless person and felt some of that anxiety. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know how to handle this. I'm kind of inadequate in dealing with this sort of a situation. And went and sat down next to the homeless person, listened, gave a bottle of water unopened, and just tried to be available to this person. And the most wonderful thing happened when I talked with the anxious person. For the first time, there was no anxiety at all. The patient was so focused on the homeless person that I'm not thinking about me and my anxiety and whether I'll measure up as a conversationalist, something like that. All attention was focused on the other person. It was very unselfish. And that's one of the healthiest ways to use anxiety, to quit thinking about me, myself, and I, and think about you or others. And what could I do? This sensor has gone off and said, "Ooh, homeless person." And so now let's be curious. Let's wonder about what could be done to make this better. And sure enough, it wasn't 2 weeks later that my patient ran into another homeless person, and the same thing was repeated. And I think there is a key there for coping with the anxiety of any of our listeners or anybody who wants to call in today, that unselfish service. I'm not going to fret whether I'm going to measure up. I'm going to see what I can do to help in this situation. And that's one of the best coping tools we have. There's lots of others. And some of it, especially when you're helpless, people get anxious about the wars going on, and that's understandable. But when that red light comes on from the television or whatever, there's really not much to do about that. Maybe send a donation for food or say a prayer, but nobody that I know of has the power to bring peace. And the same thing going on with all these catastrophic tornadoes and all the bad weather that's going on, all kinds of storms. Like Mark Twain said, people complain about it, but there's really not much when that sensor goes off that we can do about the weather. So recognizing what's a healthy level of anxiety that I want to be grateful for, and what's too much. And then I want to be curious about a different way of thinking about things so that I can feel better and do something better. Is that kind of making sense?
Yeah, totally. It's like
Okay.
you're giving the tools on how to deal with these situations. By the way, 631-319-6275 is our number, 631-319-6275. Or you can also reach us, instant feedback, steve@gmail.com. Do have something here from Jody in Columbia, South Carolina. Can we look at this?
Yes. Hi, Jody.
Beautiful. She says, I have anxiety from my job. I started working here about a year ago. I believe it's a fear of failure or not meeting expectations and quotas at this job. Do you have any suggestions to help me overcome this?
Thanks for checking in with us, Jody. I sure do. I think it's unanimous. I think at the bottom line of almost all anxiety is whether I can handle it. Am I good enough? Can I measure up in this situation? And can I convince those people who are judging me that I can measure up? So maybe the only thing you can change there, Jody, is the way you think about things. So if you think this isn't going to work, these people are out to get me, I don't know what to do, I don't know if I can make quota, you're going to feel anxious. If you think this is a new job, I'll get used to it, watch me win them over. I'm going to accept this as a challenge, not as something for fight or flight. So I don't want to argue with them. I don't want to run away from them. I want to be curious about how to make this a success for all concerned. So that the people I'm working for, that they're tickled with me, and I'm tickled with how I leave work every day, satisfied I've made a difference. And I really want to focus on doing the work well so that our customers and our team and other people are pleased with my effort. I don't always have to be perfect. I could be judged. Hey, you had your best day last year. You had your worst day last year. Yep, those are true. And I can accept that not every day is going to be perfect. And they never have been. Jody, when you were learning to walk, you were a failure. You leaned to the left and you leaned to the right and you leaned back and you leaned forward and you fell down a lot. Well, congratulations. You've overcome that. You've learned a skill. And maybe the new job is not going to be a complete failure like falling down, but the same attitude could be there for you. I wonder what else I could do to improve this. Not that I have to live in fear of getting fired, but I can be present and thinking about my job and how to do it well, and even be curious with the people who have the power to hire and fire and criticize, and ask them, what else do you see that I could learn from? I want to do better at this. How could you help me and support me and make certain that you're getting what you want? So the next step, I think, would be to have a conversation in your own head. Jody, there's something that is bothering you. Let's be curious about it. And then the conversation with somebody there at work who has the authority to validate that you're doing a good job or empathize with kind of a new hire's anxiety and be like they're on the same team against problems, not some win-lose thing where, Jody, you may be beaten up verbally or whatever by somebody at work. No, we're all going to be on the same side to get good things done well. Does that make sense?
Is it okay to talk to yourself?
Of course.
Nobody's around, but like your own, call it therapist or practitioner, to say, all right, Steve, let's talk about this for a second. What is challenging you about the situation? And then respond to it. And then why do you feel that way? Like literally have a conversation with yourself.
I like that, because if you just listen to your inner critic, you're going to have more anxiety. You're going to feel like you're not measuring up. But if you could, I'm not trying to make anybody schizophrenic, but if you could imagine having a conversation with particularly maybe the child in you and the adult this age, I'm scared. I don't know if I can make this. And then the adult, well, let's talk about it. Let's understand those feelings. Let's see what we can come up with together. Let's be solution focused. So at the end, we're going to have a goal met, not just this terror going on inside. So, yeah, if there's nobody else around, why don't you talk to you the way you would to a scared child?
Hmm. Um, I want to connect the dots there. So we've
Yes.
identified that many times what we go through nowadays goes back to our childhood, and not like major traumas, just situations that
Sure.
kind of pilot us now.
Mhm.
Would it be reasonable in having that conversation with yourself to say, okay, Steve, you have anxiety. I'm going hypothetical. We'll look at Jody's situation. You're having anxiety about your job. It's bothering you. This is what happens when you have a quota to meet. Do you remember when that used to happen when you were a kid? Steve, do you remember? But think about the first time that that actually came up, where you felt afraid that you weren't going to have an assignment done on time. And when was that? And how did that feel? And then answer that question. What do you think?
That sounds good, especially if it's not a teacher or a job, but it's mom or dad or some other authority figure at the home where you have to please the authority figures or bad things can happen. And in Jody's case, to be just like that, I want to talk to my inner child and be a comforter and eventually say, no matter what turns out, I'll be okay. So if I do get fired, I'm going to have learned from this. If they promote me because I've learned it really well, I'm going to be glad. But my self esteem is not conditional on what other people think about me. Actually, those in management, it's not any of my business until my annual review or somebody comes to get me for a coaching session. So to let go of that inner voice that is scared of failure is to use your adult voice that I got this. In fact, Jody, if you could imagine when you were a child, if you had a person your age come alongside and say, I'll help you with this, there's no fear here. We're going to be curious about ways to make this better, and we're going to be a team. You don't have to figure it all out on a child's emotions. I'm here with some rational thoughts about ways that we could deal with anxious feelings. They don't have to control things. And it's pretty easy with a child to change their mind. If a child is afraid about, let's say, a grade card coming home, and mom says, we'll do homework tonight, but right now, you want strawberry or chocolate ice cream? The child is immediately changing their mind and thinking about the choice with ice cream, not about the teacher being disappointed. We can still do that as adults. We can change our mind instantly. So when that red light comes on the work dashboard, Jody, then you can be curious. Wonder what this feeling means. I'm having some gifts given to me by my sensors. So I want to be better prepared. I want to be anticipating ways to solve problems, not just feeling like I'm some victim they're out to get. They hired me on purpose. They saw my potential. They want me to succeed, and they want to succeed as my managers or supervisors so that I make them look good when I'm making me look good. We're a team.
Could it be a possibility that Jody, she did refer to previous jobs and things that have happened in her other work situations? Could it be that this is just not the right job for her and that anxiety is coming up and that's what's going on here? Or do we look at it in that you have anxiety, there's a reason, we need to figure out where the reason is coming from?
Perhaps both. But if there are some scabs that are getting picked off at this job like there were at one before, yeah, it hurts and it can remind, especially if that other one turned out badly. But this is a new opportunity. This is a new day. And just to ask that, well, what's a different way of looking at this? I'm under pressure. Okay, then I'm going to perform well. Let me show off here. This is an opportunity for me to get their attention and admiration. This is not like the old job. I have a fresh start today.
I guess if it is a high pressure job, and I'm going hypothetical here,
Go for it.
Ray and Jody. If it's a higher pressure job than what somebody like Jody is used to, maybe it's not the right kind of job, but at the same time, there could be other situations job wise in the future where that anxiety is going to be triggered up. So what I'm hearing here is that if it's showing up here, it could show up another time. Let's try to go back to where it's coming from in her past. And that being said, when we have anxiety, it's always, I'm asking you, is it always based on the past?
It could be. And this could remind Jody of something you've gone through before. And I do think you need to look at it and be curious. Is the anxiety I'm feeling telling me that I'm not a good fit here? And if so, what are my options? And when do I want to do something different about it? I don't want to lose my health or anything else because of this. And the job concerns that you have, Jody, may be in a context where things aren't the way you want with your health or your family or other significant relationships. And if you're a worrier and you're worried about other things and then not sleeping well and then dragging into work trying to live on caffeine, then there may be other things that need to be looked at besides just the work. Is the stress proof that I don't belong here? Or is the stress like that red light on the dashboard? Need to be thinking about some things. I want to be concerned about this, not overly concerned. I don't want to be frozen. I don't want to keep driving with the red light on. Let me pull over and think about things. And so, Jody, sometimes just to be able to clarify your thoughts, then you're empowered to change them. If you think they're out to get me, you're going to have the feelings of anxiety. If you think they chose me over others because of my education and experience and ability to handle pressure, then watch me show off here. It might be very similar to when we were young and we saw people having fun jumping off the high dive, and it looked like fun until you get up there and then you look down and it looks a lot further to the water than it did from standing beside the pool. And then you can get anxious. Then you start thinking about it. You know, all the other kids lived through this. I think I will too. And then you go ahead. Well, same thing, Jody. If you look at what's going on, can you handle it? Well, maybe not flawlessly or perfectly, but it's not all or nothing. Either I be perfect or I get fired. Well, in school, we had an A minus or a B plus or a C grade. It's not all or nothing. Can you do this job well enough that you go home happy, tired every night? Not only have I handled the pressure, but I've been able to do a great job that I'm proud of. And if that doesn't happen long enough, then I need to pull over just like the red light is expecting me to do and pay attention to the warning. Something different may need to happen. And if so, you need to think about it with clarity, not under anxious thoughts. A lot of your anxiety may start with what if. What if they don't like my work? What if this is not a fit? What if they're looking for reasons to get rid of me? Anytime you hear yourself say that, it'd be back to what you were saying, Steve, to have a dialogue with yourself. Now, wait a minute. What if they promote me? What if they put me in a training position? You could look at this from positivity instead of negativity and actually feel better in the moment because you've thought about it a different way.
I'm not minimizing anything about
Mhm.
anxiety or anything
No.
that we're talking about, but the positive spin on things. Many have said what we think becomes. So if and just we're using Jody's situation as an example, not saying this is Jody, but if you're in a work situation where you're saying they're going to be, they might fire me if I don't meet that quota, or this could happen, or what if this happens? There's a greater chance of all of that stuff happening by way of you not even knowing that you're derailing your success. You're going to act the way you think, and you might not even know that you're doing it. Imagine flipping it around and saying, all right, I'm having some challenges, but it's going to be okay. I have nothing to worry about. They hired me for a reason. My last review, I thought it was going to be horrible. I thought I didn't make the quota, and they said, yeah, you actually did by 10%. So why am I still worrying about it? I'm really talking about the positive spin on things, because a lot of times when we go down that rabbit hole, and it's almost like the tornado, you've jumped in the rabbit hole and there's a tornado. You're in the middle of it and you can't even get clarity until either you speak with somebody like yourself or talk to yourself or write it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then look at it from a different way. We've all heard of the self-fulfilling prophecy. And if I think I'm going to be kicked out of here, there's a better chance that I will be. The other part is we seeing is believing, but believing is also what we're seeing. So if I'm looking at a day I didn't meet quota, or I'm looking at somebody else's mood and taking it personally, then I'm going to see that negativity. If I look at my job and the ways that I've handled these different pressures, then I'm going to feel terrific about myself and my productivity. And truth is, Jody, there isn't a job out there that won't have some pressure. So for your confidence to build, I'm a proven winner at solving problems and handling pressure. No, I can't please all people all the time. I've never had a perfect day at work, but I've had some excellent ones, and that's what got me this job. And that's how I'm going to keep it. I can't wait to own this place. So you work toward that positivity you're talking about, Steve, not toward they're going to shoot me or run me off.
And my positivity, for those that may say you're dreaming there, base it off of facts. Okay. Oh, again, hypothetical. I got hired at this job. You could be Jody, anybody, because of my skills. They see what I can do. And then look at your positive points. I'm a great people person. I'm great at logistics. I'm great at problem solving. Okay, maybe I'm not hitting the quota the way I meant to. Maybe there's a reason. Maybe we have to look at the system here. I know somebody that was in a similar situation now that I'm thinking back about it. And quotas in sales, a lot of, it's a big thing. It turned out that this person wasn't hitting the quota because it wasn't documented in the right portal.
Oh, really?
They were really actually hitting, but they were in DEFCON 5, like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And it's happening again. And then somehow it got exposed. I'm not saying that's Jody's situation. Maybe that's, you never know. But writing on your positive points. And listen, if somebody releases you from a job, it wasn't the right fit for both of you or one of you. And that means both of you. So, you still have those skills. You got it for a reason. I try to look at the positive now. I always used to look at the negative. And I always used to do that. What if? Well, what are you giving yourself by doing that?
Well, and so many people take things personally. You get let go of from a job and see, I didn't meet the quota. I'm not good enough. I'm never going to have the right job, blah, blah, blah. Then you find out the boss's nephew got your job. Well, that didn't have anything to do with your quota. So what else is going on that I should be curious about? So I want to stop that tornado in the rabbit hole that you talked about, and get a breath and get a fresh perspective and probably recruit some help. Yes, I can listen to a podcast or read a book or go to therapy or coaching or whatever. But to be able to look at it a different way, that's empowering. You don't have to be a victim of that negativity.
Love it. And I mentioned before about writing it down. Well, you can in your workbook.
That's right.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and now we've got the anxietysobriety.org website where there's more resources and more help. And we'll build a community there where people can help each other. Or, well, how did you deal with that last job stress, Jody? And you can write down other things that would be sort of a silver lining around what anxiety was happening there. And there's something redemptive about it. I came out of this better than I went into it with. And I helped somebody else by learning this. So writing it down, having a conversation with yourself or somebody else to at least de-escalate that toxic level of anxiety. Still want to have the red lights come on when they're needed, but I don't want to be so overwhelmed by something that I can't keep moving.
Love it. Ray, how do we connect with you? How do we learn about the book, the workbook? And if somebody even wants to start a conversation with you in terms of counseling, how do they do that?
Well, the easiest way is drraysmith.com. So DRRAYSMITH.com. drraysmith.com's got these podcasts and access to the book and the Kindle and Audible and all of the different resources to help with anxiety. And some people's anxiety is high enough that not listening to our podcast or not getting enough from it want more. And so there are ways to increase the amount of information, relationship, and maybe even to have that conversation in a way that is more helpful or therapeutic, if you will, so that maybe somebody could catch you, Jody, or whoever else is listening and say, let's try it another way. In AA, that's the definition of insanity. I keep doing the same thing and looking for a different result. Well, no, if what we're doing is not working, let's take another look at it.
Yeah. You are an anxiety expert. I'm giving you that title. I hope
you.
you're good with that. Well, there's other counselors, therapists out there that can help you with anxiety, but I don't feel they're at the level that you're at, because you've hyper focused on that. Of course, you help with all of this, but anxiety is such a big thing. We all have it, whether we want to admit it or not.
We do. And today we have lots more anxiety than we had before COVID.
Yeah.
People are really struggling with how to cope with things, and they need to have that careful conversation to get better.
Love it. Love everything you do, your work, and you, Ray. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate the opportunity to help.
We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.